NASDAQ inks a deal with a Swiss stock exchange focused on blockchain trading. NASDAQ partners with the financial giant CITI focused on blockchain payments. And NASDAQ has new patents to reinforce these positions, which reveal that the NASDAQ is planning a blockchain-powered data system across the world. At the same time as the NASDAQ is aggressively pushing toward the commercializing its global payment network with blockchain technology, yet another global financial giant, Bank of America, has filed 3 new blockchain patents too, focused on data authentication and identity verification using blockchain technology. As traditional financial companies are setting the infrastructure to survive the pending disruption, they are not simply planning to be part of this new industry's global financial market. These traditional financial companies plan to own it. But the real question is, how many people in your community will wake up so they will be able to own a piece of this blockchain technology too? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together, welcome to Minting Coins. It is a very exciting day. It's a very exciting Sunday, not just because we have Game of Thrones on, but because it's another day in a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week world of cryptocurrency. And I think I have an addiction. I can't get enough of this stuff, and I think a lot of people out there can't get enough of this stuff too. There's just new information coming out every day, and it's really interesting because even on the weekends, it's just information after information after information coming out to the public. But it's really no surprise because this blockchain technology is just always on. It is always working. It is always running. And it doesn't matter if there's someone not at work or if the country's shut down or where you are in the world. People are developing. Open source code is being developed. Miners are mining, and somewhere messages and payments are being securely transacted across the world with this peer-to-peer digital technology. And it's not just the people, and it's not just the individuals sending messages to each other and sending Bitcoin transactions or Ethereum transactions and messages to each other across the world. This is also dealing with major corporations, major traditional financial institutions, in addition to all sorts of businesses, startups, major Fortune 500, 100, 1000 type companies, in addition to the traditional financial companies, in addition to the blockchain startups and that sort of technology. They recognize what's happening. They know the writing is on the wall. When Bitcoin first came on the scene, you know, the governments came down hard on Bitcoin. The banks, the regulators, everyone came down hard on Bitcoin. They wanted Bitcoin shut down. And, you know, when that news came out and when the media was talking about it, they want to talk about Bitcoin in terms of terrorism and the fear of the facilitation that cryptocurrency networks could provide? Or did they want to talk about Bitcoin in terms of protecting children and, you know, keeping children away from the dark side of the web and, you know, with all the nefarious things that, you know, happen in worst case sort of situations? And what has happened is that people realized, banks, these institutions have realized that Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain technology is not going away. So what are they doing? They are overtaking it. They are creating patents around this technology. And the patent law is really interesting, how patents can be bought, how patents can be sold, how patents can be licensed. There's a lot that can happen with a patent. A patent is definitely a lot of power in terms of what the authorization says that a particular company can do in terms of a product or a service or a process, providing infrastructure, you know, efficiency, operation to, you know, some sort. And in the news today, we have more patents being released when someone files a patent, it's a whole process. And so the patent might get filed maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and then without getting into the exact process, it can take years for us to figure out what's going on and for us to dig up this information. And some of this information has been dug up. And so with that, it's really interesting just to see which companies have which patents and just get a sense of which companies have their finger on the pulse and are going to be making big moves, because a lot of us look at cryptocurrency as its potential to create an equilibrium between everyone in the world and to really strip the layer of banks and third-party sort of companies. But in actuality, a lot of companies will survive the disruption because those companies will make themselves needed inside the ecosystem and infrastructure of what the technology is and how the technology works, and the user interface between the average user and the blockchain. And these companies are going to position themselves to be strong and to not be another Blockbuster, right? To just ignore the fact that Netflix was mailing people DVDs, and then Blockbuster at one point thinks, wow, maybe we should start mailing people DVDs because we're going to go out of business. And as soon as Blockbuster started mailing people DVDs and CDs, then what did Netflix do? Netflix started streaming the movies and started forgetting about mailing DVDs. That was so yesterday. And then Blockbuster just couldn't keep up with that sort of innovation, and Blockbuster's gone, right? Banks recognize that they don't want to be blockbustered, and so with that being said, why don't we take a peek at the market, see what we're doing today, and pop into the news, see what's happening with some of these patents, and let's discuss. All right, so starting over at coinmarketcap.com, taking a look at where we are. We're at a super healthy $112 billion. It looks very, very good to be not only healthy over the 100 billion mark, but over that $110 billion mark, since this is really where we were a few weeks ago before things really started getting crazy with all the talk of the soft fork and the hard fork and the fear with the pending BIP 148, of which we are, this is Sunday, August 6th. You might be seeing this on Monday. We are just a couple days away from SegWit getting, what's the terminology? From SegWit getting fully locked in, and then 2 weeks after that, we'll be mining complete SegWit blocks with the Bitcoin BTC Bitcoin blockchain. Yeah, but we are past that, and so now we have this really healthy market cap, $3.5 billion in trading in the past 24 hours, with the Bitcoin BTC dominance at 47%, healthy 47%, because when we look down here at Bitcoin, we are over $3,200, over $1 billion in trading. Ethereum has a little bit more in trading, in $1.3 billion, and only $147 million in Bitcoin Cash trading. But with that being said, Bitcoin Cash is up 22% in the past 24 hours, $258. So this is the same price that Bitcoin has right now, Bitcoin Cash has right now, as Ethereum. Very, very interesting. I think I saw Bitcoin Cash today. As you guys know, when I look at these prices, I look at these in terms of Bitcoin. So actually, I realize we can actually do that right here. So Bitcoin Cash, right? So looking at these in terms of Bitcoin, I believe I saw this as low as 0.05 earlier today. And then what does that mean? So yeah, so it's dropped down as low as 0.05, and now it's up 24% in the past 24 hours. Is obviously some people are buying it. Some people call it a dead cat bounce. I've heard it referred to as that, when the coin just drops like so hard that it inevitably some people purchase some of that just because it's potentially too good of a fire sale deal. when a coin like that, or any strong coin with some sort of backing, has that low level. Because say what you will about Bitcoin Cash, it is a coin that may exist forever, and it is a coin that has a lot of backing, and it is a coin that has unique properties from I guess other coins and the current Bitcoin. And there's only going to be 21 million of them, and no one really knows what the future holds, right? So again, it's really interesting just to hedge the bets and really maybe have some Bitcoin Cash. I don't know. I mean, there's people in the comments. Some of you guys, in the comments are saying how you're selling all your Bitcoin. That's just crazy. Some people say they're selling all their Bitcoin Cash. I think that's a little crazy. You say you're selling all your Bitcoin BTC. I think that's a little crazy. Buy and hold is the name of the game, and yeah, I think that's a winning strategy. But everyone can make their own decisions. Okay, so as this Bitcoin price has been popping up, I thought this was a funny sort of graphic that I saw on Reddit, and it's captioned here: "The haters say that this will be photoshopped." Looks like that this mooned up so high, going from wherever it was around 27 up to the $3,200, went right through this guy's screen. But in actuality, I actually do think this is photoshopped. Yeah, and just talking about this Bitcoin Cash and just going over even the SegWit, the Bitcoin and SegWit, and what this means. When you're trying to explain the complexity of cryptocurrencies to someone who's unfamiliar with this, let alone when you're trying to explain this to yourself, there's a lot of information here. So that's why everyone's sort of consumed with it, and that's why it's a lot of fun. Another thing is in terms of signs and indications to be aware of whenever there's mainstream media attention, whenever the word Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain, even distributed ledger is used in a news organization like the 6 o'clock news, or the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6:30 news. If you see it on CNN, main news magazines, Time Magazine. The New York Times is another example. And so the New York Times has this article that is talking about cryptocurrency. And so this is just a cue. This is a precursor to the subconscious of society. And so this is just priming the normals, the masses of what's coming with Bitcoin and what's coming with the cryptocurrency revolution. And so the title of this article is "Grandpa Had a Pension. This generation has cryptocurrency." And so this is really interesting because after working in the San Francisco Bay Area and for some startups, I always thought about this, that my grandfather had a pension, that he was lucky to have a pension. And in the San Francisco Bay Area, it was really about startups and stock options and really positioning yourself to work at different companies and changing which company you worked at every 12 or 15 months to 2 years to get inside another company, to get another chance at another company going IPO. And so I always thought that my grandfather had a pension, and then our generation has the option for stock options and for things of that nature. But it's really rare for someone to be able to get in a company where they're gonna take advantage of those stock options, because the only other option is that you're an accredited investor, or that you're just averaging into normal stocks, which are just risky and have interesting economics. But the cryptocurrency revolution has changed it. So right now, everyone has a chance. Anyone has a chance to wake up, to pay attention, to see what's going on, to do their due diligence, to research this information, to understand it for themselves, and to make a decision if they can, risk some of their money for this opportunity, because there's not very many people that have pensions anymore. And if they do, they're not guaranteed, because those pensions aren't on a blockchain, right? But this generation, no matter what your generation is, has the promise with the cryptocurrency and the blockchain to finally reach the moon for real. And so why are we doing this? And why are we pushing forward with this? Well, this was what someone posted on Reddit, and they titled this The Enemy. And so we have currency, euro, currency value, 542.27, destination bank blacked out, transaction detail blacked out, SWIFT expenses. So we keep on talking about SWIFT, right? And the global payment system to have bank-to-bank, interbank transactions as quickly as possible, as securely as possible. We have Great Britain pounds, 25 pounds for them to do this bank-to-bank transfer for $542.27. If this was a Bitcoin transaction, even today, this would be, what would it be? Between $1 and $10 a max. I mean, I'm sending some Bitcoin transactions, and they're much more reasonable than this. This is just standard, billing for the par fees from the banks, and this is just one example because there's all these ATM fees, overdraft fees, opening account fees, closing account fees, blinking fees, breathing fees, having money in the bank fees, not having money in the bank fees. It's just all sorts of fees, and we can get away from that with the Bitcoin, with the blockchain technology, and we don't need to go through being feed to death with these charges. So I thought this was interesting. Control of Bitcoin, corporate media. How would you like this wrapped? As anti-terrorism or as protecting kids? Well, we're past that really control of Bitcoin, and we are now into the point where governments are adopting Bitcoin, where corporations and financial institutions are adopting Bitcoin. And so it's really not so much about the corporate media having to create these stories about the technology, because all the corporations are about to tell people to start using the technology, right? And so that gets us into the first article for today. And so turning into the news for today, we have this first article coming from Coindesk.com, where it's talking about how NASDAQ, and there's some sort of financial connection between Coindesk and NASDAQ, with the ownerships and the connections of these corporations, which have lots of different owners and investors between each of them. So NASDAQ has inked this blockchain trading deal with the Swiss stock exchange. And so the NASDAQ has been working with blockchain technology as early as 2015 and has struck this agreement with SIX Swiss Exchange, a subsidiary of SIX Group. And so the NASDAQ's aggressive push toward commercializing its blockchain network, its payments network using blockchain technology, has only increased and furthered and developed with this solution, and with the different partnerships and the patents and the internal developments that NASDAQ themselves are pushing forward. And let's not forget that indirectly the NASDAQ has ownership over is it Grayscale Solutions and GBTC. NASDAQ has a lot of interesting things going on, and among other projects, the NASDAQ Stock Exchange has unveiled a partnership with a financial giant CITI just recently in May, focused on blockchain payments. So you have NASDAQ interested in having his partnership deal with CITI, who you may have heard, for blockchain payments, and then you have them doing this trading deal. So they, on one hand, they have payments. On the other hand, they have trading, and that right there, that's huge percentages, huge portions of what NASDAQ cares about in terms of the NASDAQ ecosystem and how they're positioning their current offerings, their current products and their current services to the world, but simply using it on the new, better, up-and-coming blockchain technology. And so separately, we have this article from Coindesk, this other article from Coindesk.com that talks about this patent from NASDAQ that's revealing its blockchain-powered data system. And so this is simply a system for securely distributing time-sensitive information via a blockchain. And really, what's time-sensitive information? It could be money, it could be currency, it could be a token, it could be a message, it could be a smart contract. Time-sensitive information could literally be, anything. It's just blockchain technology. So I'm not an expert, and I'm not doing the diligence and the time to fully understand the definitions of what this means. Does this mean that they can claim everything? It's it gets complicated, to say the least. And so this other part here, last October, the United States Patent and Trademark Office published a patent application from NASDAQ detailing its plan to create blockchain backups for exchanges. And these would create an auxiliary record of transactions in the event of an emergency. So, if there was a major event where all the records in a building were destroyed, then NASDAQ would have this patent for creating this backup system of all the information for the exchange. Very, very interesting. And so here's a link to that patent here for everyone to take a look at from NASDAQ Inc. Systems and Methods for Securing and Disseminating Time-Sensitive Information Using a Blockchain. And so again, this is for securely releasing time-sensitive information to recipients via a blockchain. Was there actually anything interesting in here, I thought? So I didn't know what this last part meant, where it says no embodiment, feature, component, or step in this specification is intended to be dedicated to the public. So what does this mean? That like no aspect of this is intended to be dedicated to the public? Does this mean none of it's for the public domain? Does this mean none of it is for the public good? Does this mean that all of this is going to be commercially only available for the NASDAQ, and so this will not be any sort of open source or freely available technology for anyone else to use? Is that what this part means? Really interesting. So if you understand Bitcoin, if you understand blockchain technology, then you understand that you don't require any of these middlemen. You don't require these financial institutions to hold your private keys, to hold your Bitcoin, to take care of any services for you. They're really not needed or required in the raw Bitcoin space. But nevertheless, what may be happening is that a lot of these companies may be seeking to own and control different aspects of this new industrial order. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how these play out. And I would just encourage you to pay attention and to really be careful about supporting any company who is showing any sort of indication of not creating an equal playing field, or just creating a world of centralization or a world of control, because those sort of systems really would be bringing us backwards in this world. And it's each of our responsibilities to remain vigilant and to be looking for that sort of behavior and those sort of actions and those sort of clues from different people and different organizations in the space. All right, so lastly here we have this last article from Bitcoinist.com that's talking about how Bank of America has filed 3 new blockchain patents. And so these patents are geared toward data authentication and identity verification, which is really, really interesting. So let's think about that. Data authentication, authenticating data, authenticating that information is what it's supposed to be. You think like maybe supply chain, or maybe a deed for your home, data authentication. Maybe that you signed something or that you submitted something would be data authentication. And then also identity verification. I think that's pretty straightforward, verifying that someone is who they say they are and being able to prove that with the information on the blockchain. So the conversion of a non-secure, these patents are focused around the conversion of a non-secure instruments, quote unquote, non-secure instruments, through a validation process, which I'm supposed to be a centralized validation process, into transaction confirmation outputs. All right, so I'm not exactly sure if I'm right about this, but maybe gold would be an idea for this. So if gold is a non-secure instrument, or if a house or maybe something like collateral, you know, say I'm putting up these baseball cards and they're worth like it's a Babe Ruth card and it's worth like $1 million. The conversion of a non-secured instrument, I don't know, or maybe non-secured means it's like an unsecured loan. So anyway, this non-secured instrument through a data validation process, and then outputs transaction confirmation. Monitors, verifies users on a network. So interesting, the second patent, is utilizing a distributed ledger system like blockchain technology, and it's going to monitor and verify the identity of users on a network. So if you're using Facebook, it's going to monitor your identity, and it's going to verify that that person is who they say they are, and monitor what it is that they're doing. Seems a little scary, seems a little Big Brother-esque to use blockchain technology to monitor people and to verify their identity, you know, without a shadow of a doubt who someone is and what someone is doing. Seems to be potentially a huge invasion of privacy depending on how that technology was used and where that technology was used. And we know that Bank of America owns that patent. So the last patent is centered around a system that monitors changes in user history at a specific timeline and creates a map of the user and his or her history. And so so I suppose if you have a website, have a resume, let's say you have a DMV record, and the DMV record is monitoring changes in the user history at specific timelines, creating a map of the user and the history. You know, so if you're updating your phone number, if you're updating your address, let it be for the shoe website you love, or let it be for the DMV. You know, every time you update information, you know, if you were married, if you got a new job, that this patent would allow Bank of America, or the people that use this patent through Bank of America, to monitor the changes in the user history, in the timeline, to map that, and to map it in the whole history to make it very rich information. I'm sure you can make it very visual and very provable as well. So these patents suggest that the Bank of America is going to heavily invest in Bitcoin and blockchain technology. Yes, very likely they are. And you know, even if they don't, they're going to own these patents. These patents are going to potentially prevent other companies from doing what they want to do. You know, they're going to have the ability to sell these patents, to use these patents, to license these patents, and it just makes a lot of sense, you know, since they're going so hard into these patents, that they themselves are going to be the ones who are going to be going hot and heavy into Bitcoin and blockchain technology development. So these patents are focused around user and transaction verification through blockchain technology. Then there's this quote here. I thought this was interesting. Who is this person? Catherine Bassent, the Chief Operations and Technology Officer at Bank of America. So she says that I think we have somewhere around 15 patents. So these 3 patents are 3 of around 15. 15. I mean, that's a hefty number of patents to own about what you can and can't do in America with blockchain technology. And so again, this person who is the Chief Operations and Technology Officer Catherine of Bank of America. She says, very important in the intellectual property world to reserve our spot, even before we know what the commercial application might be. Wow, that is just a badass and ruthless. They don't know what they're doing, but they are going to own as much of it as they can. And then after they own as much of it as they can, they're going to figure it out later. The business side of me loves it. It's just strong. It's taking a lot of risk. It's going all in, and for them, they have the money to burn. They have the money and the time to take that risk, and I'm sure they've already done enough due diligence to say that it's worthwhile to take this risk. And while they're doing their risk analysis, I really hope that you're doing your risk analysis too. Because this is just affecting everyone. This is affecting you. This is affecting them. This is affecting your neighbors. This is affecting their shareholders. And somehow we're all connected and interconnected in this crazy blockchain world together. We each have a copy of the distributed ledger, and we can each, have ownership over the tokens on these distributed ledgers. If Bank of America, if CITI, if NASDAQ is so heavily invested in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, distributed ledger technology, blockchain technology, patents around this technology, people in the technology, processes of the technology, infrastructure in the blockchain technology, then they probably also own a ton of Bitcoin, just in terms of the speculation and understanding what their corporations are going to be getting involved in and what their corporations are going to be doing in the space. And if they're investing in the space on the business level, and if logic prevails that they're also purchasing Bitcoin for both the companies and for themselves personally, then it's a question that why aren't more people looking at this? Why aren't more people considering Bitcoin as a potential destination to give our attention, to look into, to consider owning a piece of it for ourselves? Have you made that choice yet? How long did it take you from the time you heard about it to look into the information? And how long did it take you from the time you started looking into the information to purchase your own piece of Bitcoin? Well, what we need to do, I propose, is to just get more people to hear about this, to learn about this, and to start moving in this direction. When you are going out spending money, try to talk to businesses about Bitcoin and encourage them to accept Bitcoin. Tell your friends and your family about Bitcoin, and encourage them to get a Jax wallet for free and send them just a little bit of Bitcoin yourself. It can definitely go a long way. They're definitely going to think of you and remember you, that you were the person that gave them their first little bit of Bitcoin. And as they see that value double from $1 to $2, they're going to start looking into this technology themselves. They're going to get bit by that Bitcoin bug, and then one thing will lead to another, and then you guys will be able to go to the Bitcoin Anonymous group together, right? It's a lot of fun, and so that's just my idea. It's just really exciting to see what these corporations are doing, because I suppose it's validating my understanding and it's validating my perceptions of the future. So I guess my question for you is this validating your perceptions of the future? Is this encouraging you to purchase more or to dollar cost average into the cryptocurrency space? And what do you think about making a goal for yourself to get one person a week, just one person, maybe two people a week, one person. I don't want to put too much on you, so let's just say one person a week to download a Jax wallet, and for you to send that person some amount of Bitcoin that you feel comfortable with. Let it be 25 cents or 50 cents or $1. Let's let me know what you think about that. So super exciting times ahead. There's a lot more information coming out every second of every day about this space, about what's going on. Be sure to check the show notes and to check the links and to look at this information yourself, to do your own due diligence. Tap that like button, comment your thoughts below. I'm really interested in hearing from you and to sharing and getting deeper into the conversation below, and really knowing what's interesting to you, what's inspiring to you, and what do you want to know more about. So with that being said, thanks for showing up. I can't wait to see you again to bring out the next video, and I'm glad that together we're minting coins.